So I feel like there's no good way to film this on a photo booth MacBook camera with mediocre lighting. But I just got a few things that I want to say. I want to touch upon a few topics, a few ideas that just keep coming back to me from all my time. I spend a lot of time walking around living in Vancouver and just seeing the way the world is going, the way things are being run, the way society is kind of living. And there's two really big ideas that are just really resonating with me and sitting with me at the moment. The first one is the idea that World War III is where we're currently in the midst of it, but just see it in the wrong perception. I feel like, World War I and World War II were very government, just country driven. But I feel like World War III is actually something that we're in the midst of currently. And I think World War III is actually the fight between the people. At this point, the government doesn't have to do anything. They don't really need to. I mean, you go onto your social media platforms, immediately all the information you see is tailored to your algorithm, to what these platforms think that you should be seeing. You think about how the Instagram algorithm and all these platforms were used to influence elections, and I'm sure they influence much more than just that. But you don't really have to go too far nowadays to feel the anger and everything else of another person. I mean, of course, you're not going to find it everywhere, and I'm sorry if I'm not articulating this properly. It's just, it's a strange concept that I'm still kind of coming to terms with myself, I guess. Both of these things, both of these ideas. The government doesn't have to tell you you're trash, because the second you post something online, you'll have 500 people doing it for you anyways. The government doesn't have to put you down, because nowadays the person next to you is so willing to fight you for everything that you have that government doesn't have to do anything. They just have to watch. At this point, society is self-police, self-governed. You walk around, you can get angry at as many people as you want. You can say you're doing this, you're doing that, but you just notice the trend of, especially nowadays, with people quitting their jobs, and you're just finding, I tried to use DoorDash, and I was looking at the restaurants and then finding their Google reviews. And I would go to Google and I'd search them up, and most of the time, I mean, maybe not most of the time, but a fair amount of the time, you find people say, I called, I had a mistake with my order, but the person working there just didn't really care. And that's like pretty much what's happening at the moment, is people just don't really care. And in a sense, I don't blame them. We live in this economic jungle that, I want to touch on the concepts of money and this sort of stuff in a second. But first and foremost, I think it's important just to acknowledge that with where we're at as people, COVID aside, we're all so willing to fight each other. We're so willing to get angry on the dot. We're just so willing to put each other down and not realize that, your most valuable asset are the people around you. Your most valuable assets are the people around you. The ideas that you don't have, that others are coming up with, are so important, not only to your growth, but to the growth of society. World War III exists all around you. At this point, it doesn't matter if somebody launches a nuke. At this point, it doesn't matter if the government tries to do anything, because we're so busy fighting each other and we're so busy fighting ourselves. So this is where it'll kind of tie into my next point, and that I've been spending a lot of time contemplating, life and what it means to be alive, and what it is about you know, what is the universe? What do we live in? What are we doing? And in my mind, I see the universe as God's greatest experiment. It was this place to just experience as much as possible. And you know, that's why duality, and I mean, maybe not exactly why, I can't say I'm totally certain of all these things. You know, these are just ideas, these are just things that resonate with me on a certain level. You know, if the universe is God's greatest experiment and he wanted to experience the universe in as many ways as possible, that would mean inserting his consciousness into as many different vehicles as possible. So every animal, every human, anything that experiences life is a physical vehicle of consciousness. So that means literally that God is every single one of us. Every single person has the power of God, and all the media has to tell you, I mean, they don't have to tell you anything, they just distract you. I know, like they'll, I don't want to get too into that. You see, when creation came about and money became a thing, you know, I'm a big believer in I don't trust history. I don't trust everything that we've been told and everything that we know, especially since colonialism. I don't think that we've been given the entire truth. I don't see why I should think that we've been given the entire truth. I see no reason to. But if we're all God is experimenting. God is trying to figure out, and I can say this with certainty, just in the state of affairs of the world, is that God is trying to figure out what he's doing here. He knows where he comes from. He knows who he is, but he just doesn't know what he's doing here. And everyone is looking for answers. Everyone is looking for meaning. Everyone is looking for purpose. What do we look for purpose in? We look for purpose in money. We look for purpose in jobs. We look for it in virtually everything that isn't saying, I am a creator and I am a special being, you know? Just knowing that you're special should be reason enough to just want to live out of a space of love and creativity and honesty and all these things. So at some point in time, money came about and greed came about, and you can look at the people with all the money and get angry at them. But when you realize that they're as much a piece of God as you, then you realize that that piece of God is just looking for meaning in money and power. And then you have folks who see no meaning. You have a lot of people who just see no meaning in life. And then you have a lot of people who are somewhere in between. This whole existence is just a search for meaning. It's been hard to see that being programmed into this 9-to-5 lifestyle, because you're born and you're fed into this system, and then you're told that's just the way life is. You know, you're told there's nothing you can do to change that. You're told there's nothing you can do to control that. But when you realize that there's these people in power and then there's everyone else, and that we're all children. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I'm not the most religious person. I'm Jewish. I take a lot of value and pride in that. But I can't say I've spent my whole life being religious. But when you look for meaning beyond, you have to, there's no second person without one. There can be no human race without one something that created that. And consciousness is such a mystery in itself. I contemplate it. I don't understand it. Recently, I'm kind of interested in the idea that on the other side of every sun, there's a black hole, which means our sun in parallel technically has, like, you know, a whole other side of the universe existing beyond it. There's just so many universes that exist, which means there could be so many different gods. I don't know. I don't have the answers. I wish I did. Maybe in time I'll learn more of the answers. I would love to. But at the moment, all I know is that I walk around and I see so many little pieces of God looking for meaning in the physical reality, when instead the only meaning they can find is within. The only meaning that you can find in this lifetime comes from inside of yourself and who you are as a person and the value that you as a person bring to the table. The problem with money is that people get to choose who makes it. You could do one job and be put in front of 3 different people, and let's say you're the best at what you do, but these 3 people know nothing about, or one of them knows something about what you do and the other 2 don't know as much. All these 3 people are going to see what you do as worth something different in a monetary value, because we're constantly trying to put a physical value on, more or less everything. Like, it just doesn't, it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating to live in a city where the minimum wage can't even get you an apartment, where you're told to get a job, but at what cost? Literally, though, you can say you're not being a valuable member of society if you're not working, but what's the point of working a job that just feeds this same system of negativity and abuse and power struggles? Why are we so willing to give our power to businesses and to companies that are just trying to take advantage of us? And the worst part is that because money follows money, so the people who get the most amount of money to start new businesses are people who have already had money. And because of the natural corruption of the money system, the people who now are getting money are just corrupt. So we're literally just handing money from corrupt person to corrupt person to corrupt person. And then we're walking around saying, oh, well, the same mistakes keep happening. Look at us. We're humans. We keep doing these dumb things and we keep destroying ourselves. But it's like, first off, why are you putting your value of yourself on? You're creating a value of self from the outer world and other people's decisions. That's one thing entirely. We can't be putting value. We can't be giving our self-worth to everyone else and allowing others to define what makes us worthy. It's not fair to us. It's not fair to the world. We haven't even gotten into our connection with Mother Gaia and the earth, But those are just a quick few points I wanted to touch upon. Just when you go around, when you walk the streets, when you see your fellow man, and when people want to fight you, when people want to get angry at you, there's so many things we have to do. But the main thing is just lead with compassion. Lead with a space of openness, love, have a kind heart, and just know that things can change and things will change for the better. But it really takes every single one of us to want that. It really takes the population of humanity to create the change that we seek. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you later.